Good evening and welcome to Sacred Space. I am Ahriana, your host. So excited that you're here tonight. And I have been thinking for the past couple of days, that was my dog and his noisy collar. I don't know if you heard him, but it was really loud here. I have been thinking the last couple of days about the pursuit of happiness and what that actually is, because you hear people say that all the time. Like, what do you want to do with life? I just want to be happy. What do you want for your family? I just want my family to be happy. You know, what is important in life? Well, we've lost track of how important it is to be happy. So I want to just invite you to think about what happiness means to you. What it is that we do to become happy. So I talked to my son today, and he and his son went car shopping, and they bought 2 cars. And he said, everybody in my household is so happy. Even the baby is happy because she has a new car to drive in. Everybody is happy. Or I looked at my friend John Paul Roach's page today, and he has won a new award for his book. And he talked about how happy he is about winning this award. Okay, that's happy. That would make me happy. I'd be happy. What makes you happy? And do you pursue happiness? And how do you pursue happiness? Because that's what we say. Part of life is the pursuit of happiness. Part of our freedom in the world is the right to pursue happiness. So I get a little twisted with the word, first of all, pursue. Because if I have to pursue it, maybe it's not something I really want. Kind of want it to come to me. Don't really want to have to go after it. But generally, when we talk about happiness, we're talking about an acquisition of something that makes us really happy. We're talking about eating a certain food that made us really happy. We're talking about a new job that made us really happy, or an accomplishment that made us really happy. And all of that is really different than joy. And joy is a word that, other than my friend Connie, who I know, for whom I know that is a very important word, joy is a word that we use interchangeably with happiness, but we don't really think about the fact that joy is an entirely different thing. Joy is not something that we pursue. It's not something we go out and try to get. Joy is something that happens to us. So I want to tell you a story. So there was a little girl, her name was Rose, and she lived in a neighborhood where there were many little shops, all owned by her neighbors. And when she went to the store with her mother, in almost every store, her mother would say, Rose, don't touch that. Just look, but don't touch anything, except for Mr. Finnegan's toy store. And when Rose went into Mr. Finnegan's toy store the first time, she was 4 years old. And she reached up for a beautiful horse on the counter, and her mother, as always, said, Rose, don't touch that. And Mr. Finnegan leaned over the counter and looked all the way down at Rose and said, oh, Rose, it's so nice to meet you. You can touch anything in this store. And he turned to Rose's mom and said, don't worry. If she breaks anything, I can fix it. I made everything in here. When I see how the children play with the toys, it helps me know how to make the toys better. So Rose can come in here and play anytime she wants to. Well, Rose was only a few blocks away, and as she grew up, her mother would take her over every time they went downtown for something. Rose would pull on her mother's sleeve and say, please, can we go into Mr. Finnegan's toy store? And her mother would roll her eyes, because when she went into Mr. Finnegan's toy store, it was going to be half an hour or an hour before they could come back out. As Rose got older, she got old enough that her mother would say, just walk down. You can go and see Mr. Finnegan, go see the toys, and then come straight back home. Don't touch anything else. Don't go anywhere else. So Rose was really familiar with all of the toys in Mr. Finnegan's store. And one day, as she was moving things around on the shelf that held her very favorite toys, which were a stuffed donkey and a toy fire truck and an elephant with a long string on it so she could pull it. One day, as she was there moving around the toys that she liked to play with the most, she noticed that on the same shelf there was a very small, very plain, very easy to miss little box. And she looked at it, she picked it up and looked at it. And she said to Mr. Finnegan, I think this is in the wrong place. I don't know how this got here, but it doesn't do anything. And he said, oh, Rose, you have found the most important thing in the whole store. And she rolled her eyes at him and looked at it, said, there's really no, it's a plain box. Are you sure you're thinking about the same thing? And Mr. Finnegan said, come over and bring it to me. And she walked over and opened it up and said, there's nothing in here. He said, oh, there's so much in there. I've been putting things in there every single day. He said, that's the joy box. And he said, what you have to know about joy is that joy is something you can never touch. It's not something you can pick up and look at. It doesn't come from outside of you. Joy always comes from inside of you. So I've been putting joy in this box every day since I first made it. It's as full as can be. And since you have found it, I believe this is probably your box. So you may take it home. And she said, well, how do I use it? And he said, every time you experience something inside your soul that makes you smile on the inside, or makes your eyes well up with tears, or makes you think how amazing life is, open the box and imagine that you could put that feeling inside. Then close the box quickly so it stays in there and set it back down. He said, your goal is to open it as many times a day as you possibly can so that you can truly understand how much joy there is available to you in the world. And that's what Rose did every single day until she was 72 years old and passed that box on to her grandchild, telling him the very same story. Joy is something that we can't pick up. It happens to us in moments that surprise us. It happens to us suddenly. We very rarely sit around waiting for joy to sneak up on us. It surprises us and fills our hearts and fills our minds and brings us, if anything, retroactively back to other moments of joy. It happens in lots of different ways. So I invite you to close your eyes and to take a little breath, just an easy one, and to consider your day. Think about when you woke up this morning and what it was like to open your eyes. Think about what it felt like if you were getting into the shower and letting the water run over you. Think about the flavor of your coffee or your tea. Think about the sounds you heard today. If you were outside, maybe you heard the birds singing. Maybe you heard chimes ringing out somewhere. Think about what you saw. The colors, the shapes, the things that were familiar to you and the things that were not familiar to you. Think about what you touched today. Maybe the softness of a blanket, the warmth of the coffee cup, the kind of bumpy texture of the sandwich you had for lunch. Maybe you heard a child's voice today, or saw a child in play, or maybe you have a furry friend who caused you to laugh suddenly. Maybe you picked up a string of prayer beads, or you heard a story that touched your heart. Maybe, just maybe, you had the greatest experience of joy anyone can have, which is the joy that comes from gratitude. Just consider where joy showed up in your life today. And if it hasn't shown up yet, then you still have lots of the day left. But I suspect that whether you noticed it or not, you probably had a moment for joy. So gently, when you're ready, take a breath. Remember where joy met you on the path and open your eyes. It is possible to be opening that joy box all day, every day, isn't it? It's the little things. It's these little things that bring us joy. And yet joy is this immense, intense, opening emotion that is so much more than just happiness. It's an experience, not a thought. It's something that emerges from your soul. So this week, as you move out into your world, I want to invite you to watch for joy. If you have a little box you can use as your joy box, please find one and use it. It doesn't have to be very fancy, but put it somewhere where you can open it often enough to realize how joy-filled your life can be. Thank you for spending the evening with me. If you would like to stay afterwards and share some of your joy moments, I would love to hear what brings you joy and what has brought you joy recently. And if you need to go, I completely understand. If you are watching this replay later on, thank you for being here. Send me a note. Let me know what brings you joy. I'd love to know. I have a joy box of my own to keep full. So whatever you share with me will help me do that. Have a great evening.